Sorry to keep y'all waiting. Had a big celebration out there. The real brains behind our football operation. It's Kim Fields. It's her birthday, so we had a big celebration with the staff out there in the kitchen. So apologize for any commotion while you guys were in here hard at work. She certainly keeps me going in the right direction and prevents this entire building from falling apart. So she is a Gamecock football legend, and certainly wanted to celebrate her birthday. As a staff, wearing the green ribbon, having a hard time getting it to stay the way it's supposed to, but wearing the green ribbon for mental health awareness. Gamecock Athletics has launched Mental Health Awareness Week in collaboration with our campus mental health to continue to emphasize initiatives to break the stigma and raise awareness for mental health. So certainly I am well aware that our players, students, people across the world are all dealing with things from a mental standpoint, and we are here to help and lead and support in any way that we can. So that's what this green ribbon is for today. And then ask you to keep Byron Gerardo and his family in your prayers. Obviously, our assistant strength coach, Byron's dad, passed away the week of the Georgia game, and I didn't say anything about it last week. But today is the funeral, so obviously a tough time for Byron and his family, having to bury his father today. So it's been our team's wrapped our arms around him over the last week, and certainly feel for him and thinking of he and his family and praying for them. Also, as this is a tough day for those guys also. From an injury standpoint, for us, pretty much the same as what it was the other night. Xavier Leggett was back at practice today. He should be able to play on Saturday night. Carlin Platel was out there, was limited in practice today. We are, I would say, hopeful for him to be able to play on Saturday night, but everybody else is in good shape. Rick Sandage continues to progress and is getting closer and closer to being able to play. Big challenge this Saturday night against a really talented Troy team. Lost. I'm sure they feel like they could very easily be 4-0 right now. Lost in a one-score game to Liberty, who we know is a good football team, and then had a tough loss against Louisiana Monroe the other night, where they're driving to score and have a ball bounce off a receiver's hands that ULM intercepts and runs back 99 yards for a touchdown when they're going in to score. So really good football team. Sorry about that. I started early. Really good football team, though. Their program, obviously, you can look around the Sun Belt Conference and see what those teams have done in the last couple years, really throughout their history against Power 5 teams, whether it be Louisiana last year against Iowa State. App State went down to Miami and had every opportunity this year early on. So you look across the Sun Belt, we know what we're getting into, and this is a team that has a transfer quarterback that has SEC experience, a good group of running backs, one of whom was the preseason conference player of the year a couple years ago before he injured his knee, and is still in the rotation. Some size at receiver, and then really what jumps out at these guys is their defense. I mean, when you talk about wreaking havoc, this defense wreaks havoc. 5th in the country in total defense. They're 2nd in the country right now in sacks. They're 4th in the country in tackles for loss. They're one of 4 teams in the entire country that have held 2 opponents this year to less than 190 yards of offense. The other one, or one of the 4 teams, is Georgia. So Georgia and Troy are 2 of the 4 teams in the entire country, along with Iowa State and Western Michigan, who have held 2 opponents to less than 190 yards. Since 2017, Clemson, Miami, Ohio State, and Troy are top 4 in the country in tackles for loss. So this is a disruptive group. They've held 8 of their last 10 opponents to 21 points or less, had 9 sacks against Southern Miss earlier this season. To quote Ferris Bueller, 9 times they sacked the Southern Miss quarterback. I mean, that's hard to do, but they're disruptive, and it is not coach speak when I tell you this is one of the hardest playing defenses I have ever seen. That's not me trying to make them sound great. They play their rear ends off and play with great effort, and the stats reflect that. So we've got a big challenge on Saturday afternoon against Troy. Should be a great matchup, and our guys, we got off to a great start today in practice. Are coming back off the game on Saturday, Sunday night, and then our guys were off yesterday. Great practice this morning, tons of energy. Like the way our guys are working. As we've stressed to our team, we've got to continue to get better each and every week. Not happy with the performance Saturday night against Kentucky at all, in all three phases. And coaching certainly has to be better, but the real travesty in this whole situation would be if we didn't get better as a football team. We are 2-2. It is still September. The sky is not falling. We have to play better. We have to coach better. We've lost to 2 undefeated teams that are good veteran football teams, and we got a great opportunity this week to bounce back. We got a bunch of fighters on our football team that are staying together. We had a fantastic practice this morning, and we're excited to get back out there on Saturday afternoon and compete. That's what we love to do in this program, is compete. And last week's behind us. We've learned from it, and players and coaches, and we've got to be better this Saturday and continue to get better each and every week. I told you guys when you guys asked me over the summertime and in preseason, what's a successful season? My answer was always maximize the potential and the ability of this football team, and that's still the case. And I don't put a win-loss record on it. I don't go in before the season and pencil in what games I think are going to be W's and L's. I expect to win every single football game, and I'm hurting and as disappointed as anybody that we're not 4-0 right now. But our job to maximize the ability of this team is to continue to get better, and that's what we're doing. I want to thank the fans again for an amazing environment on Saturday night. Can't tell you how many I can't tell you how many recruits were there, because I told you guys beforehand it was going to be an unbelievable group of high school prospects, and it was. I meet with them all in my in the locker room, or in my little private locker room before the game, and I mean, it was just a big-time recruit after big-time recruit that I saw before the game, on the field before the game, afterwards. And it was amazing, the group of prospects that were there, and they commented on it. And a lot of those guys have been at other games this season, and to hear them talk about the atmosphere in Williams-Brice Stadium, we appreciate that. From Gamecock Walk, which a lot of those recruits got to be a part of, to our players, the energy that creates for our players when they come through that Gamecock Walk, and the excitement on the bus when we come from that hotel and come down Bluff Road and see our fans, and Bluff Road can be completely blocked off, and then we pull right over there into Gamecock Park to hear the guys on the bus and the excitement that they have when they see that. It is appreciated. So thank you to all of our amazing fans that were out there to greet us on Saturday night, and thank you for the energy that you cheered with and supported us with for 60 minutes the other night. That was an awesome atmosphere, and it's the way it should be every Saturday in Williams-Brice Stadium. I say that we got the greatest fans in the country, and we do, and we got to do it week in, week out. I'm sorry that we didn't perform better for you overall as a team on Saturday night, but we are working our butts off day in, day out as players and coaches to get better and to be better this week. And we need to against a really good Troy team. So with that, be glad to answer any questions.
Shane,
David always gets the first one. Does he get in here and sign up or hold his hand, teleconference, press conference? He always gets the first one. Is that a veteran, he's been here the longest and he gets to cover it, or what? Phil should be mad in the back that he doesn't get the first one each week. Go ahead, David. I'm sorry. I'm just busting.
Don't worry about it. Shane, as a first-time head coach, when there's something going wrong and maybe it's consistently not what you expected, how easy or tough is it to not try to be patient and work through instead of knee-jerking and saying, okay, we're doing this and doing that, and trying to let the other coaches do their jobs?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Certainly, you gotta stick to the plan and just stay focused on the process. And my dad used to say this all the time to me as his son or his football team, that things are never as good as they seem. They're never as bad as they seem. They're somewhere in between. And there was certainly a lot of bad in a lot of ways the other night, but there was a lot of good as well. And I think our players realize how close we are, and it's frustrating that we weren't able to get over the hump the other night. But it's not. I'm not going to all of a sudden make rash decisions off of 4 games. Do we need to play better in certain areas? Absolutely. I'm not denying that. But we're 4 games into year 1, and we have a good plan for how we're going to get this thing going, and you certainly week in, week out, you do what gives you the best chance to be successful. But we're still in September and have played 2 SEC games and 4 total games. We're not going in here and just blowing up everything after 4 games. We got good coaches, we got good players, and we got to perform better.
Shane, I'm sure you're probably sick and tired each week when we ask you, from a percent standpoint, how Luke's doing in that regard. But do you feel like as he continues to get closer and closer to 100%, can you continue to see that playbook opening up? And maybe that's not the best way to word it, but do you feel like it has limited some of the things that you guys do want to do based on his skill set and being able to use his feet?
Yeah. None of us, I don't think, are in here are doctors. But for anybody to think that Luke would be 100%, and is he well enough to play? Yes. To anybody to think that if Luke went out there today and was asked to run a 40-yard dash, that he'd run it faster than he ever has a month after breaking his foot, it's probably not very smart. If you feel that. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that Luke's not healthy. Luke is healthy. Luke is tough as hell. And he probably doesn't feel great. If you ask him, he tells you he feels really good. If you watch him run, I'm sure he's still hurting, but he's tough and he's gritty and he's out there battling, and he will continue to get where he feels better and better. He's played in 2 games this entire season, a month after breaking his foot. So he's got or whatever the exact term was that had happened to him. So what I mean is he's continuing to get better and better, continuing to get healthy. Is he running as well as he did before he got hurt? Probably not. Is he that far off? No. And as he continues to feel better and whatnot, we'll continue to open up stuff. I mean, we had some things designed the other night where he could have pulled the ball, and if he pulled the ball, he may run for a ways. We had some things, some quarterback draws potentially called, some sprint out, scramble, or sprint out situations where he can throw it or run at that 1 4th down. I mean, he can run the ball or he could throw the ball, which he did. So we don't feel necessarily limited, but I don't think it's realistic to say that he's 100% Luke Doty. He's dang close to it, and he's well enough to play. And I'm glad he's out there battling and as tough as he is.
Juju was in here saying how the atmosphere in the locker room is still very positive and the camaraderie and bond continues to build. From what you're seeing right now, what players are stepping up as the leaders to make sure that the attitude does stay that way?
I don't know why it wouldn't. I mean, I know I've used the term doom and gloom before when Luke got hurt, and I mean, dang, people, we're 2-2. We're not happy with how we've played, but we're in September, so I'm not sure what the outside narrative is outside this building. Don't really care, but I know in this building we as a team see how close we are. We as a team understand that we have a lot that we have to clean up, players and coaches. Details on the field, details like off the field, because it all transpires, but I don't think there's necessarily 1 or 2 guys that all of a sudden we feel like we're on some sinking ship because we're 2-2 and have lost to 2 undefeated teams. And we're getting with the team and be like, man, you better pick these guys up. No, it's not like that at all. I mean, that was a hurt football team in that locker room Saturday night. Hurt because we expected to win that football game. We expected to beat Georgia. And when you don't get it done as competitors, that hurts. And we had a hurt football team that came in here on Sunday. But then you're able to watch the video and see the good we did, see the bad we did, and how close we are, and the details, and just trying to fine-tune some things and continue to get better. And that's what we're trying to do this week. So, I meet with a group of, 15, 20 guys. There's some of the older guys on our team. I meet with them every Sunday, and we talk through things, but I haven't had to do any extra motivation or extra, let's pick ourselves up. Our guys, it's the Kansas City Chiefs right now are 1-2, and I don't think anybody in Kansas City thinks the season's falling apart. They've lost 2 games. I think they think they're going to win the Super Bowl, and I want our mindset to be that that we're 2-2. And we're going to do everything in our power, keep our head down, work our butts off this week, and do everything that we can to get better today. And then let's show up tomorrow morning at practice on Wednesday and get better and just keep doing that and see what happens on Saturday. So a lot of guys, to answer your question, sorry to go off on that rant, a lot of guys, but it's not like I've had to pull 2 guys aside and say, hey, we really need you this week to pick the team up. They're good. They're competitors, and they know we got a good football team, and and are excited to go play on Saturday.
Shane, you've rotated obviously Jazz and Ja'Kai at the left tackle spot, and Vershawn got to play a little bit of that guard position against Kentucky. Is that something you plan on rotating as the season goes on, or would you like to see some of those guys step up and establish themselves, and what have you seen from those guys?
We'd certainly like to have some guys step up and establish themselves, but I also believe, it's kind of a thin line, Colin, because you want to have that continuity, because those 5 guys on the offensive line, I mean, they got to work together, and the calls that Eric Douglas is making and the calls that the quarterback's making, throughout the week in practice, you want to be able to, have a good feel for if I'm the center, who the 2 guys on each side of me are. So I would like to see some guys step up and solidify themselves over there. But at the same time, I've preached it to the coaches every week. I want to be able to play guys and keep guys fresh, whether it be multiple defensive linemen. We rotate, Boogie, Tonka, Jabari, and Zach on the defensive line. We rotate Jordan, JJ, and Aaron, at the edge positions. We rotate linebackers. We play Carlins Patel and David Spalding at nickel. We rotate multiple receivers in there. And offensive line, I don't necessarily want to rotate multiple guys, but I do believe in developing guys on backups, or developing depth by playing multiple people and being able to keep guys fresh also, for sure. And we all got to be better. It's not just that left side. Dylan Wanhams needs to play better. Javon Gwynn needs to play better. Eric Douglas needs to play better. Greg Atkins will be better as a coach. Marcus Satterfield, myself. I'm not sitting here just singling out players. The whole group, everybody across the board, defense included. We all have things that we can be better at, and we have to continue to improve and get better as a football team throughout the season.
Hey, Coach, how would you evaluate the run game so far in the first 4 games of the season? And then also, I know you can't blow everything up after 4 games, right? But is there something that maybe you can do schematically, or is there any sort of change that you guys want to make before Troy?
Good question, Mike. That's a trick question. I would say the run game, it obviously hasn't been good enough. We have what we want our yards per carry to be each and every week, and we're not hitting that. So when you're not hitting your goal of running the ball effectively, not necessarily yards, but just yards per carry and in the game, and if we're not doing that consistently enough, we're not running the ball well enough. So, from that standpoint, it hasn't been good enough. I think we all know that. No, we're not blowing things up. We're continuing each week. It's not. You have base runs that you're going to run each week, but a lot of times the style of the defense you're playing, I don't want to say dictates, but certainly there's other plays that are better if you're playing a team that lines up in an odd front, meaning like 3-4. 3 down linemen, or a team that lines up in an even front, meaning like 4 defensive linemen. There's certain runs, that's universal, high school, college, and NFL, that are better against certain fronts. So, I think each week you want to be able to hang your hat on, you run it no matter what. There's certain weeks that there's some runs that are better against some defenses than they are other defenses. And then constantly, like I said, just continuing to get better and just really, I know I've said it before, but just narrow down a little bit, what we're doing, where whatever Sat calls, we feel like we can go execute. And the other night, looking back at the video, it wasn't like we had a bunch of runs that were necessarily just bad runs schematically that didn't have a chance. It's just the details of the play. And if anything, if our footwork is a little bit off at the running back position and we're a little quick on a play, or footwork of the quarterback is off, or whatever it may be, let's just really, I don't want to say simplify, but hone in on the details, and that may mean simplifying a little bit where we can execute a smaller number of plays and just be effective at that, because no matter what we call, we've got good offensive linemen and we got good running backs, and we need to be able to go execute no matter what the defense is and no matter what the play is called. Just own your responsibility. We talked about that this morning as a team. Just own your responsibility and get the job done, players and coaches.
Shane, going back to Luke, you mentioned some of the challenges that he's facing, recovering from the foot injury, going against two really good teams, and with all the focus on the quarterback position, they get the lion's share of the credit, lion's share of the blame sometimes. Do you have to pay extra attention to the confidence, especially of a young quarterback, and make sure it stays in the right place? And also, during your career, working with your dad and some other coaches, what are some of the things that they've done working with young quarterbacks and make sure they stay good when times are bad?
Yeah, I think I think Luke, in my opinion, has played really well in 2 games. He's given us a chance to win in the last 2 games. And are there some throws that he would like to have back? Sure. Are there some decisions that he would like to do differently? Sure. But kid's tough as nails and has come in there and sat in the pocket and made some throws for the most part and done some good things. And we've got to continue to coach him and develop him and get him better, because certainly there's some plays the other night. I mean, we only had, I think, 51. And of those 51, sure, like any game in any position, there's some plays that you look back on and wish you had done something differently, and that's no different for Luke from the other night. But he's, for it to be only his 3rd college start ever last Saturday night, and he's only played in 2 games this year against 2 undefeated football teams that are pretty good defensively, both of them. I think he's been great, and I'm excited as the season goes on, as you continue to watch him just continue to get better and better and better. So I don't think confidence, Rick. I think it's more just, let's not forget that he is really still a freshman, from a quarterback standpoint. And we talked about it as a staff that Luke was the quarterback through spring practice, and we were all happy that Luke was back playing quarterback last week, and we had a healthy Zeb and everyone else. But we can't lose sight of the fact that Luke's still young, and Luke is getting better before our own eyes as he gets older and older. And then young quarterbacks, I think it's just kind of staying steady and not panicking and just not necessarily trying to keep them confident, but just maintaining confidence in them and understand that they're young guys and they're gonna make mistakes and teach and learn and just make them have that confidence to just go out there and just play freely and go make plays. Luke's a playmaker, and will continue to make plays for us.
Offensively, the other night, it seemed like you guys were using the get lined up and looking over to the sideline a little more frequently than you do. What are the benefits of that, and just the overall operation? How do you feel that went for you guys?
I think it was good. A couple things. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I know from being around coaching and coaching defense, I think it can be. I know it can be challenging when sometimes you huddle, sometimes you don't huddle. Sometimes you are able to go fast. Sometimes you simulate going fast, and then you're able to look over to the sideline. So mechanics-wise, I think it was good. For us, it was more just, trying to be efficient and maximize every play. And, we against Kentucky, we did it out of a couple different formations. Just had a pretty, a good idea, okay, out of these formations, Kentucky likes to do this, and just kind of, I don't want to say getting into the perfect play, but, giving us a chance to just simulate we're going fast and kind of make sure that we got good plays called, So will it be a part of our offense going forward? Sure, aspects of it, but, we'll still huddle, and we're like everybody. I mean, we have the ability to huddle. We have the ability to go to the line of scrimmage and look. We have the ability to just call one word, and that one word means everything: formation, pass protection, and the route, or formation and run play, by just saying one word and going super fast. So we have the ability to do all that, and each week you're just going to do what gives you the best chance, to be successful.
And defensively, just overall, good, bad, otherwise, how do you feel through the first 4 weeks with that side?
I think they've been great. Obviously they're playing lights out from a turnover standpoint. It's disappointing that we've won the turnover margin the last 2 games and have lost. To not not turn it over any the other night, and then I think it was 3-2, if I'm not mistaken, against Georgia. We're doing well from a turnover standpoint, and that's one of the ways, if you go in the room next door, one of the things that's on the wall about how we win football games each week is win the turnover battle, and we've done that. So credit to those guys for doing that. We're creating disruptive plays. We're playing well in the secondary for the most part. Probably the disappointing thing from the other night was just our inability to stop the run. That's been a big point of emphasis going into the season, is running the ball, which we're not doing a great job of, and stopping the run, which we didn't do well the other night. I mean, we played really well on defense, but the fact of the matter is Kentucky lined up and ran it, I think, for 230 yards and ran the ball 44 times. And the last two drives, when we needed to get a stop and a ball back. I mean, don't get me wrong, our offense, we put the defense out there a lot when they gave us every opportunity to win the football game. But we weren't able to get them stopped those last two drives, which I know was disappointing for Coach White and the rest of our defense. But overall, I mean, they've been fantastic. We've, knock on wood, but we've talked a lot about being better at stopping explosive plays. Our defense in 2020 here at South Carolina was, frankly, one of the worst in the country at doing that. And through 4 games, we're pretty good from an explosive play standpoint. We got to continue to be better there. We got to continue to stop the run, and like everything, just continue to get better and keep improving. But off to a great start, in my opinion.
Shane, I think we saw some multicolored cards on the sideline last week. Was that a new thing, or was that going on before, or is that just in blocking out signals?
That was the defense was doing that. That was a new thing. I wouldn't read too much into it.
And then just we talked to Juju a little bit about it. We saw him line up in the slot maybe a little bit more, moved him around the formation. Is that part of just like, the week-to-week tinkering that you can do to maybe adjust things versus, like you said, blowing things up? And how much is that just,
No, I think at the end of the day, you certainly have schemes, but you also got to think players, not plays. And we've got some really good players on this offense, and let's just continue to be multiple with where we align guys and how we get the ball to different people. And Juju's really good out in space and being able to get the ball to him either between the tackles or out in space, and making defenses, defend guys in different places, whether it's Jaheim lined up as a receiver, Jaheim lined up as a tight end, or Jaheim lined up as a fullback like we did against Eastern Illinois or whatnot. Just trying to be multiple from that standpoint.
Shane, you were mentioning the turnovers before from the defense. I'm sure you've been part of a lot of good defensive teams that just don't seem to get a lot of turnovers. What's the knack there? How do you teach the idea that, hey, we've got to get the football?
No, it's a great point. I think I mentioned it last week or sometime, but I can remember being at Oklahoma, and we hired Alex Grinch as our defensive coordinator, and all he came in talking about was takeaways and getting turnovers, and we made a huge point of emphasis, and it seemed like for 3 or 4 weeks we couldn't get a turnover. And then all of a sudden they just came in bunches. So I don't know. The thing that we do is we emphasize it, we chart it or track it. Every Sunday we talk about the turnover battle and getting the ball back, and then we do drills out there every Tuesday and Wednesday. For the defense to work against the offense. So it's the running backs versus the linebackers with like a ball security, making sure the receivers versus the DBs, the tight ends versus the edge buck guys, and then the running backs versus the linebackers. Ball security for the offense, the defense trying to get the ball out, different type drills to simulate and teach that. And then out at practice, I mean, we're constantly yelling, and I'm constantly yelling to the defense about get the ball out, try and get the ball out, punching it against our defense. And they've done a great job of that, and we need them to continue to as the season goes on.
Thank you. Maybe with Alabama the exception, we're seeing some funny things happening around college football this season. Some of the powers are slipping, and some of the lesser knowns are moving up. Do you think there's a transition going on in college football? Maybe some of the powers moving in other parts of the country, and does that give you kind of hope as a building program that there's openings there for the up and comers?
I think it's just a great example of there's so much parity in college football. I mean, we all have 85 scholarships, and we're all recruiting a lot of the same players. And a lot of these guys that we're playing this weekend, probably had SEC offers, and maybe the team that offered them in the SEC filled up at a position, so they ended up not going to the SEC. They ended up at Troy, but they really should be in the SEC, or guys that got overlooked in recruiting that are at Troy that a lot of the SEC teams would love to have on their roster right now that are playing at Troy. So I think it goes back to recruiting and what an inexact science that is, and just how much parity there is. We got it's not like NFL teams where you have 53 or whatever it is on their roster. I mean, we all have 85 scholarships, and we all have good players, and each year is certainly different. But I don't know if there's necessarily a power shift. I think it's 4 games into the 2021 season, and last year was certainly unusual. This year, teams got spring practice and got a normal summer. Defenses are certainly playing better in a lot of ways across the country because they were able to work on tackling and go through spring practice and preseason camp and all that. But it's interesting. Certainly, there's been some, shake-ups, and you look at the teams that the experts picked to be the top 5 and how that's kind of been shook up already. But it's an early body of work. But I think it's just another great example of how much parity there is in college football, and that any team, Bowling Green as a 30-plus point underdog, can go into Minnesota and beat Minnesota the other day, or whatever it may be. I mean, you see those every Saturday in college football.
It seems like you have a lot of older guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, who are playing their best football of their career. Have you been able to kind of determine what that's a function of, if that's a function of anything? Does it kind of depend on each player? But it seems like a lot of guys who maybe haven't produced nearly as much are producing a lot more.
I think it's experience for one. I go back to last year. I don't know how many practices South Carolina got in before COVID got shut down or shut everything down. It wasn't many, but you've got guys that had a full spring practice and a full summer. And I don't know, belief from us as coaches in instilling confidence in those guys and making them realize how talented they are and how good they can be. And certainly they're off to these guys that you're talking about are off to a good start. And I think that's how we want this program to be is great belief in every single player in this program, and great love for them, and building them up and lifting them up to what they can be and not what the past is, because the past doesn't dictate the future and the kind of player you can be. Credit to those guys. They would be the first to tell you that they've got a lot that they've got to continue to improve on. But I would argue that it's not just, defensively. I mean, I haven't been here, but I think Jalen Brooks has played pretty dang good through 4 weeks. I think Carolina Joyner's done some really good things through 4 weeks. I think Josh Vann has done some really good things through 4 weeks. And all I heard for 9 months when I got hired is what we didn't have at receiver. And they've done a nice job. Are there plays they'd like to have back? Sure. I'm not saying that. Are there things that can be better? Absolutely. But I'd argue those receivers have I don't want to use the word overachieved, but have certainly done some really good things based on what I was told they were when I got here. And we've got to continue to coach them up and continue to get better, because by no means have they arrived, but we've got to continue to utilize those guys and get the ball to them in the passing game, and continue to bring these older guys along on defense, and just every position, from veteran guys on defense to veteran guys on offense to the guys out there playing scout team O-line and D-line. We're in a race to improve, and we're just keeping our head down and just trying to get better every single day. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.